Hello dear guys, it's me Nassim from Microsoft Research Team. I'm here to learn you about a new wonderful and fascinating tool with name of Dmap, the version of 2.0. You know, before I start about the calculation and different steps, I want to say you that please imagine that you have a project and you have to calculate different indices for a big region with different stations. Without this tool, it's really very sophisticated for you and you have a big challenge. So we decided to develop this software, and after this video you can perceive that it is really wonderful. So let's go to start it with this version and with different tabs here. Okay, in this version we try to facilitate and as well easiest tab with different tool tips that we try to use. Everything is really easy for you. Okay, so before I start for different tabs and clarifications, I prefer to show you a Excel file and different sheets and different variables that maybe you use it to calculate your intent drought indices. Okay, I prepared an input file with the extension of XLSX. Maybe your input file in CSV format, in text format. We prefer different capability in this tool, and you can use different input format of input file. Okay, for this sample I select an Excel file, and as you can see here, this file has different sheets. The first sheet related to the different stations that I gonna compute different stations for different stations and calculate different indices. Okay, so the first row, the first column related to the name of these stations, and the other characteristics of the stations such as latitude, longitude, altitude, field capacity, surface soil thickness, and as well available water capacity. So this is some features about these stations. Okay, as you can see here, these are some of these stations, and if you want to extend it with different station, you can do that. It is you can do that. It is not hard for this tool. Okay, so if you select different variables, you can calculate different indices. As you know, for example, for Parmet Drought Severity Index (PDSI), in this tool we just need rainfall and average or mean temperature. Okay, but for example, for KBDI, Kishwaram Drought Index, that is wonderful, another index. So you need, for example, Tmax and as well precipitation or rainfall data. So if you load different variables, you can use different calculate different indices with this tool. Okay, so and the other one related to here of the temperature minimum average temperature, and the other minimum temperature, and blah blah blah. Okay, and in the first column here, since I want to calculate in yearly format for my drought indices, so my file is in yearly format. As you can see here, I have 12 rows for the first year in this file, and for the rest of the data in this file. Okay, so be careful, pay attention. If you want to use daily data, your file should be in daily format without any gaps, without any missed cell or maybe damaged cells. Everything should be okay, because after that when you run the tool, you don't face with different warnings or errors maybe. So pay attention to this tip. Okay, let's go to run the tool. The first step here about the input Excel file or maybe input CSV file or text file. Okay, so my sample, as you see here, is an Excel file. So I select this icon. Here it is a delimiter or separator of your file. When your file is in Excel, it is not important. You don't select it because you don't any delimiter in Excel file. But in CSV or text file, you should pay attention to your delimiter separator, that on that file, and then select fill this blank here and write the things, for example, line or maybe comma, semicolon, or everything that you think your file is including that one. Okay, so for Excel file, it shouldn't don't pay attention to this because in Excel file we don't have any delimiter. So I select fill list by file. I click it here, and previously I prepared it and I know that where is that. If you want to select this file, you should also browse it. Okay, so I select it and click open. Okay, another page should be open for you, and you can see this file, this screen here. Since that Excel file has different sheets, so I should devote the best sheet for this step. Since I should select my station, so I can click this one, station list. I click it, and you can see all the data in the first sheet here. So, we have a same panel here, such as the two previous version of Dmap, and this is related to the conversion. If your file is in UTM for latitude and longitude for geographical features, you can select the best one for your file. If it is in the simple format, since none. If it is in UTM or maybe in minutes and second, you should click the other one. Okay, so it is simple, so I click just none. It is the default of the system, so I don't need to select the others one. Okay, the other things here related to the name of a station. Okay, and sorry, another tips here about the first row is header. If your data have that a different row as the header, you should click it. If not, you don't check it. Okay, so my file has header data here, so I click it, and the default of the system is check it. And latitude for latitude, longitude, and the altitude. Sometimes you don't need to click all of them. For example, such as altitude, I don't need it, so I omit it here. The field capacity, if I want, in this sample I want to show you how can we calculate PDSI. As you know, for PDSI we don't need the field capacity. If you want to select it and devote it the field capacity here, so you can calculate KBDI, since the KBDI needs field capacity data. Okay, so since my data and my aim index would gonna be PDSI, so I don't select field capacity here, so I don't devote it and go to another column, and I need surface soil thickness for calculation of the PDSI steps, and the next and the last one is available water capacity, AWC here. Okay, so everything is finished. I do all the columns, and do everything about this data, and everything is finished. I click load data, and as you can see here, the features about the station list is completed, and you can see the name of the station. And it's really wonderful when you know that you want to calculate PDSI for different station in a region, and it's gonna be good for you. Okay, you save your time, you save your money, and everything that you can imagine. So In this panel, I should select the data that I want to use it for PDSI. My aim is calculate PDSI, and previously I know that PDSI needs rainfall or maybe the precipitation, and as well mean temperature. Okay, so I select T average, and I don't need it to make a delimiter here, and just open file. Okay, my file is input, my sample file, and click open. You know, when you click it open, here you should select the your sheet. Since the T average, I click T average. It depends on the name of your variable. It, for example, on your file, it's mean temperature. You can write it, and the tool can, such as artificial manner, and it recognize it for you. Okay, so I selected the related sheet and T average, the name of the variable that I need. You know, another important tips here. Since my input file is in monthly format, so I should click monthly. You know, if I omitted or I forgot it to select this one, at the next steps I face two different errors, different bad calculations, and bad result about the PDSI. So pay attention for select the best timing cells here, timing scale I mean that. So my data in monthly, so I select monthly. You know, it depends on your nature of your index. For example, in KPDI, we don't have anyway, because your input data should be in daily. And so when you want to prepare your Excel file, you should collect all the data in daily format. But for PDSI, SPI, and the other of the Drought indices, I don't need the daily format, daily scale. So pay attention to this. Another tips here related to the format of the time here. You know, for example, in my sample, as you can see here, I have 4 digits for including my year. If my file has different, for example, show the day or maybe the year and months beside like this, I should select the related format. But in my sample, I have just this one, as you can see, and so I select this one. And about this here, I gonna show you how can we assign the related header. It is date, I selected, and these are all of them related to the stations, as you can see here. Okay, you know, we put another option that you can easily do a rest of the assignment here. You know, autofill column header. When you click it, as you can see here, all these stations name, but I mean that recognized by this tool. So you know, since I selected before as date, but the header here is year, so the tool can't find it because there isn't it is not a match between year and date. So if the tool can't recognize your header such like this one, so you should select it with manual action manually. So I select it as date. Okay, so don't that worry about not match between the header and the other that variables with the assignments in this tool. Okay, so the other important tips, and I prefer and pleasure to mention it to you, the name of these stations. You know, you have the table and you assign them before, but you can see all these stations recognized by the tool here, and you can have all these stations in a collections for calculation in the next step. Okay, it's really fascinating. So everything is finished, and I click load data for average temperature. Okay, so I click load data, and I face with this message: loading is completed. Okay, thanks. And okay, you know, we want to calculate PDSI. We need two variable as input data. The first one is T average, average temperature, and the next one would be rainfall or precipitation data. So I should click rainfall for assignment the data in this step. Okay, since these are repeated active steps such as the temperature, I don't prefer to make description to you. So I do them as the previous one. Open file. If you have another file, you can do that, but I have the same one, and I select rainfall as the rainfall data. Okay, and in monthly format because my data is monthly scale, and autofill for header, and just this one should I click it manually, and finished. Load data. Load is completed, and it is finished. So when your assignment is finished, these data would be captured in this tool in behind the quotes, and you can see what the things have saved in the tool. But all the things that you assigned here would be saved and saved exactly in this tool. Okay, so it is finished, and I should click load data and do the next step. Okay, so everything is finished, and I click load data. I face with this message: loading is completed, and that's okay, finished. So you know, since we input and load our input data as an Excel file with different station in a region, so I don't need to go to second tab as NetCDF file. If you have a NetCDF file for that aimed region, for your input region, so you can go directly to input NetCDF files as the first step. But since I want to describe all the things for you, so I should select the first step as input Excel file, and then calculate the drought indexes, and in second step I go to this tab, the NetCDF file sample. Okay, the data is captured here and saved by the tool, and so I should go to last step, drought indices. Okay, here you can see different active indices here in these panels. Some of the indices, as you can see here, these are not activated for you and disactivate here, since you don't load all the input, essential input for calculating these indices. Okay, so by this selection you can compute SPI, RI, PNI, and the other things that you can see activated, all of them here. But for example SWSI for hydrological index, you can do that because you should select the other things, the other input. So for this sample, my sample is PDSI, and I can calculate the other because they have the same input, average temperature, and as well precipitation data. Okay, I select PDSI. You know, in timing panel, if you want to limit it, your time, you can do that, but this tool can recognize your all the the years of your sample, the start time, and as well the end time of your input data. You know, for the frequency, for frequency for the PDSI, or maybe every index that you want to calculate it, you know, it depends on the nature of your index. For PDSI, we can calculate yearly, seasonally, and as a monthly. For example, for KBDI, we can calculate daily format because my input file in daily format. or maybe for EDI. EDI is another file, another index that it needs, that daily format. So pay attention and caution please for this tip, okay? So I want to, for example, select yearly because I prefer to show this sample for you in yearly scale. If, for example, you can have another option such as select moving, that it refers to moving average in SPI and the others drought indices. So you can select this icon, but in PDSI I don't want it, so it is not activated for me. And okay, another wonderful capability in this tool is this one, add average. If you want to get add average for region and add it in your data as a separate station in the end of your calculation, you can select this one. Maybe it is so important for you in your project if you want to have an average PDSI, for example, or maybe index the average amount of your index for all the whole region in your sample. So it's really applicable and useful for you. And so I click add average, and when I click it, I see this page. This is that tip that show to me different calculations as mean. These are the representative of the data that these are show to you the average mean of that data, the previous data, such as latitude, it is the average one, all these stations, and longitude, about the average, AWC, FC, since I don't need it for PDSI, so it is 0 here, and soil surface thickness, as you can see here, all of them is are average amounts of the variables. So if you want to change this one, you can select and change everything here about the variable. And if you want to select, for example, as an extra station with another name, you can do that. But as the default of the system, default of the tool, this is the average stations. It's gonna be good because I can understand that what's happened after that. It is the average number of PDSI values in my data. So the average, it is reasonable for me. Okay, I don't want to change anything. These are the real data, the average data of my region. So I click it yes, and it is finished. So I select the PDSI, the other things, and now generate. Okay, index calculate. And if I want to see my data here, I click send to table, and really wonderful. As you can see, for the region, for this station in this region, if I want to, for example, so another one, I can click the stations and see the related PDSI. And if I want to see the average of the whole region, like this one, I click average that I previously described to you. So wonderful, and it is finished. We put as the previous format of Dmap. You can send this data to that export to Excel file and do different graphs. But we put another panel here for see different the box plot, a linear, and as a columnar graph here. But maybe since these are simple graphs for box plot, linear, and as a columnar format, it is not very I don't recommend you to use them in your report or maybe in your paper, and it is better to save them and use depict your graph in the environment of the, for example, Excel, or maybe every tools that you want to make your charts. Okay, so if you want to see a simple chart, you can do that. For example, for this sample, the frequency is good. I don't want to change them. If I want to show you the line on the graph, I check it. If I want to select grayscale, my chart would be in grayscale. If I want to select, for example, color one, I can do that. But pay attention that this color would be for box plot, and for example this one. And if you want to select a name of your, for example, the title of your chart, you can select it, write it here, for example, as an average, because I write it here. I wanna prefer like this one. And for example, the other things that may be important for you for showing the table here, if you want to see all these stations, you don't want to check it, but sometimes you prefer to show some of these stations, so you can click here. For example, since like this one plot, I can see all the things, all the stations of the regions, like this one, you know, and as well the average one, I can see all of them. But if I want to select, for example, some of them, I click some station or ignore some of them. For example, this one, sorry, and for example this one, and as well the average one. So after that, click plot, and after this one I can see the plot for the selection of the station in that region. It depends on your taste or manner for show some of the station on the plot. And as well for linear one, if I want to select, I can see this one. And as well for column, you know, for columnar, maybe when you select this one, I want to show it to you, you know, it is okay because I select some of these stations here. But if I want to show all these stations, it's not reasonable in columnar format because it is so busy, and so it is not good, you know. So if you want to select columnar, it's gonna be good for yearly or maybe seasonal, not in monthly frequency, and as well just limited the stations. Okay, so you can see all the things here. You know, if you want to check the severity amount, in previous video I described all the details here, but in a while, if I want to say to what this panel related is, which icon or maybe concept, it is related to severity and as well the duration. You know, in PDSI you should imagine the table about the different classes, the amount of PDSI. We have, for example, say that PDSI is limited in -3 up to +3, or maybe -2 up to +2. So you should select a border for make the drought and see the severity, for example, -0.99 for another things about more than or maybe less than. For example, in KBDI, it starts from 0 up to 800. So you should select the border and as more than, for example. But in PDSI and the other, some of the drought indices, you should select less than, okay? So because -99, after that -1, -2, these are related to the different classes of drought, such as mild drought, such as normal drought, such as severe, and as well extreme drought. So be careful about selection these steps, and they are related to your scale time, the start and the end. And this is the severity figure here, that you can see the amount of the duration and as well the severity. These are very fantastic for you, that you want to know that what the amount of severity and as well the duration in your assigned year or time of the drought, I mean the period in your project. So it's really wonderful for you. And the start and the end and the duration, the severity, all the things is obvious for you here, that you can observe all of them. And as well the other things for export your chart data to Excel, and as well save the chart. You can do that in this tab. You know, some of the users ask us about the dimension of the severity. You know, the severity is in day. For example, 2.5, it means 2.5 days, the severity of the drought, okay? For example, here it is the duration of the drought here, and the severity is, that the in day format, in day scale. And if you want to export, you can do that, save your chart and the other things. I omit the rest of them. Okay, as you can see, all of them are so friendly for you. It is not very hard. By one time, if you see this video, you can understand all the tips and points related to this Dmap version, second version. Okay, so in this turn, we wanna go to input NetCDF file. It is so wonderful for you that you can upload a NetCDF file in a tool, and after that calculation PDSI or maybe everything of these indices that you want to calculate them in the project. It is the ability that we put it in this agreement soft, put this ability in this tool. Okay, so in the first step, I should select data file. I click select data file for NetCDF file. You know, in this sample, I select Merok 5 with RCP, and as well because these are for prediction, I select this one. If you want to, for example, load historical data, you can do that for monitoring the road, but these are for prediction the road, so I select this format of data. If you want to select, for example, monitoring data for example, Agmera or maybe Cordex, you can do that. In this tool, you can browse and upload every of the format of file in NC file. I mean that every kind of models that you want, you can upload them, and as well at the end you can calculate your intent, drought, indices. It's gonna be good for you. So in this sample, these are in daily format, and this is related to precipitation in the first step, and after that I want to select minimum, that the average temperature, because in this sample as well I want to show you how can we calculate PDSI for a region. So I need two of the variables, precipitation and as well average temperature. So the first step, I select this one, 3 of the 5. It depends on your sample. It is my sample. Maybe your file just in one of the file is sufficient for you, or maybe more than these numbers, okay? Pay attention to this step. It is just a sample, and it is in NC file. Okay, click open, and your file is selected. Okay, if you want to see the different the dimensions or maybe the variables of the NC files and different features in your NC file, we put another capability in this tool with name of view database of your NC file. For example, for this file, since I want to know about the time and, for example, the name of the latitude, what is the abbreviation of the latitude here and longitude, or maybe the time units is started from what, or maybe as this data is in leap format or no leap format, all of them is embedded in NC file. So we put this icon here for your trust, that manner that you can see your NC file here. So I select one of the file and as well view base database, and as you can see here, these are different variables in every NC file that you want. I select precipitation, so I click it and I see the dimensions and attributes of that file, and see, for example, the flux is shown to me that the dimension of this file is not millimeter and days. No, it is this one. It is the the original unit related to the precipitation in Merok 5. And as well the other about the dimensions, as you can see here, and the other things. So you can check the name of the variables, the name of the dimension, the unit of the variables, and the other things that you can see here, the global attributes of this NC file. So it is wonderful for us. I close it, and At the next step here, the variable's name, you can check all of them with the data view that I showed here for you. You know, if your data, for example, Cortex data, for latitude and longitude, it is not lat and long as the abbreviation name. You know, for example, for latitude, you can see that it would be in R-lat, and for longitude, it's R-long. So be careful. When you view database, you can check the exact name of the file, and you have to write the exact name of the variable in this tool. Pay attention to this tip, it is so important for you. Okay, in this loading options here in this panel, we have two options here. If you, for example, input Excel file, so use list of the station. In the previous step we do this one. If we want to select use a region, so I write the region, the start and the end of the latitude and longitude for the region limit border in my sample. For example, I select it here, start, for example, like this one, and for the end latitude would be in, it is my sample, it depends on your sample, you know. And this one for the other one, you know, it is a region. And about how can I understand the number of the station in this region, it depends of the length of each cells on your data. You know very well about NC file, and you can understand what's happened in the NC file. So it depends on the dimension of your NC file. For example, how the width and the, I mean that they scale each cells in your NC file. So you can understand how many cells in this, how many stations in your cells. And like this here, each cells will be a station. You know, in this tool, you know, it is so reasonable that each cells represent one of the station, and the middle of this cell, I mean that the average point in the middle of this cell represent the station. And you can calculate, for example, drought for this cell in your example, in your project. So the other point about decimal place, I show later to you that what is this. So I omit in this step, and after that in the table list of this station I gonna describe you what is this. The variable name, be careful for the variable name, since my, as you can see here, the variable name is PR, and you see in the view database that it would be PR. So be careful about the exact name of PR, not write it PRC or the other things. Be careful about the right dictation in this cell here in the blank file. And it is finished, and after that I click load data for loading the data in this sample. You know, another important tips about how many time we need for loading the data. As you know, NC file is so sophisticated file, and it depends of the RAM of your system, how many the capacity of your memory of your system. So I should stop the video, and after the data load I should continue for you. But be careful and consider this tip that you need more time to load your data. As you know, it is an NC file, a big region for this tool, so you need time. Okay, and after the loaded data is finished, you can face with this message here, NetCDF data is loaded. Okay, I click it. You know, here you can see another option, that another message, your cells as stations will replace to previous station list. Do you want to continue? You can face with this message here. You know, since we select this one, I mean that use a region, so this is ask us that the previous station in this icon should be rewritten. Yes, because these are new. But be careful, if you want to select, for example, this tool for NetCDF file, you refresh the tool, and after that input NetCDF file for do the rest of the calculations. So I select yes for do fill the stations here. You know, if you remember, I told you that after describe about this tip, and it is the turn of this icon here about decimal place. It is 2. As you can see, list of the station. The name of the station refers to the latitude and as well longitude. The longitude and latitude here you can see, and this decimal refers to this exact floating point here. After point you can see the exact number of the precision, 2 of them. If you want to extend it you can do that, but I recommend you to select 2 as the default of the tools. Okay, and you can see the other things here, but about the surface soil and as well available water capacity, you should write the number of surface soil and as well AWC according to your region, your case study. For example, for this one, I know about my region, so I click I write with my manual format about this station. At the end, if I want to get average, the tool do that for me, and like this one. And as well for LWC, I know the amount of the region exactly. I know that you recognize the region, so you know about this AWC and as well surface soil thickness. And the other one, for example, this value. Okay, so everything is finished, and you can go to next panel for the other things. We have unit converter here for graded data and put different things. Our data is precipitation, so I click rainfall. It is the default one. The other things related the unit of the variables. As you know, in CMIP 6 and as well CMIP 5 or maybe the others, the units of your the precipitation is in flux. So if you want to change your data, because you have to do this, because if we want to calculate PDSI or the other ones, the precipitation should be in millimeter on day and the other things. So for average temperature, I should select the other one, Kelvin to centigrade. And if your data doesn't need to do any conversion, you can select multiply and put 1 here, or maybe plus 0 and minus 0, or you make the other conversion according to your units. We put different things here to do add the other conversions here, So I select my intent variables and the conversions and save and convert. Click it. And here you can see this one replace dates. Previously I said to you, and pay attention, since in this sample I didn't click this icon refresh after input cells and input Excel file and do Drought indices. When I went to input NetCDF files, I don't select, I mean that refresh the previous sample. So in this format, I face to different different message. So if you don't want to see this message, please click this icon as a refresh and do the other the new and NetCDF files in a that refresh format. Okay, so since I don't forget it, I see different message. It showed to me that your data array isn't similar with the previous one. If you remember, in input Excel file, my scale time is not this one, not for future. It is the previous historical years. So it is not the same, and I face this one. So I click yes for replace one, and your data is saved. Okay. Another tips is about FC field capacity. As you remember, I mentioned to you for PDSI we don't need field capacity. So the system asks us, the tool asks us, do you want to calculate the average for the region? No, I don't want, because for PDSI I don't need the field capacity variables and the content. So I said no. Okay, as everything is finished, all the things that I described to you for precipitation data. So for you should do and repeat all these steps for NetCDF file, again for average temperature, because we want to calculate PDSI and we need the NC files for precipitation data and as well average temperature. So do all these steps again for average temperature. Okay, let's go to do that. I omit all the extra descriptions, so I should select the data file again for select this one. For example, I select Merok 5 again because my precipitation data was about Merok 5 and RCP 5, I mean that 45. So I should select the similar one for average temperature. Open it. Your file is selected, and as I can see here, I select every one that I want and see the database. I don't want to repeat all of them, and so I omit this step, go to this one, and since I select I done it for the regions, so use this list station. If I select this one, I should manually write this one again, so I omit it and I select this one. Okay, so go to the variable name and select the name of the I meant that the variable, since it is about the average temperature, you can see the name that TAS test, so I should click TAC. Be careful about the right exact name of your variable. And so I don't need the other things because all of them are the same for the precipitation. The region is unique and I want to load just the data, the precipitation at the first and the second for TAC, average temperature as well. So after writing, load data. And for loading data, it takes time because, as I told you before, it is NC file and you need more time for loading the data here. So after the data loaded is finished, you can see this message, NetCDF data is loaded as the previous variable, I mean the precipitation. All the steps are repeated as the previous one. I click it OK, and this panel should be activated for me. As you can see, these are the similar as precipitation, but be careful about the unit. The Merok 5 is in Kelvin, so for PDSI I should click centigrade. I previously described all the items for you, so I omitted in this step. And about this, for unit converter, about the variable, pay attention. When your variable is average temperature, be careful. I forget this one. You should select that average temperature for TAS test. Okay, now it's finished, and save and convert to go to next step. Your data is saved. Thank you. It's finished, and it is again for FC field capacity. I don't need it for PDSI, so no. Okay, it is finished. Go to this tab as the previous one. Since I didn't refresh, I see the previous calculation in this step. It is not important. You can know about different things about yearly or seasonally. I describe all of them for you, and about what some of them are activated and the other not activated. Okay, you know about all of them. And for example, about add average, if you want to do that, and yes, I know very well, you know very well in this step, and send to generate for do that for calculate PDSI, and send to table for see the other things. I omit the other steps for you because in this step you know very well about the other details. Okay, it is finished. I recommend you to use this wonderful tool for your project because with this tool you can save your time, you can save your money. It is really good for you. Okay, at the end I invite you to go to our website and see the others different products that we have in it. It is so useful, and after different meetings and discussion with different scholars, professors and different researchers, we decided to develop each of the tools that you can see here. About Agrisoft team YouTube channel, please subscribe to our channel with a simple click here to subscribe it. Thank you so much, dear guys. And this turn, it is say the time that I say to you bye bye. Have a nice day and bye bye.